Welcome to another episode of the Plant-Based Jan Adventure series. Today is not really an adventure, but I'm calling this Scenes from Seattle. We're in Lake Washington. Right now we're headed to Lake Union and we're in the middle of a heat wave. So we thought we're in between trips. Let's just bring the boat out and show you some highlights. Here's the house, Sleepless in Seattle. That right there is Husky Stadium. When Seattle gets this hot, there's only one way to cool off.
There are many cities in the country where air conditioning is a must. Not Seattle. We've historically been one of the least air-conditioned cities, although today we're adding it and about half of the homes have it. We are not one of them. That's why today I threw lunch and my camera in the boat and we're getting some natural AC. I figured might as well bring a few more people to check out the sights.
This is obviously the little party spot for everybody.
Where in the world is Seattle? It's in the United States. It's in Washington State, perched on the western side of the Cascade Mountain Range. It's the biggest city in Washington. The city itself has about 750,000 residents, give or take, but the full metro area expands it to over 4 million. What makes Seattle really unique is that a lot of it is surrounded by water. There's Puget Sound to the west. Another term for that is the Salish Sea. The Washington State Ferry system provides transportation to the famous San Juan Islands to the north and various other major points to the west and the south of Seattle. Lake Washington is to the east, and while its size seems big for the Seattle area, it actually doesn't make the top 100 size lakes in the United States. Its area is about 34 square miles. But that is really big when you pour it right into the middle of a high density population. So there are a couple of bridges to get to what locals call the east side and vice versa. The traffic is heavy with some big companies anchored in the area. You've got Amazon, Starbucks, Costco, Microsoft, Boeing, Alaska Airlines, just to name a few. But we're not talking about work. We are talking about recreation.
The University of Washington is along the water. There's a lot of structures that are actually waterfront. And that right there is Husky Stadium. During the games, you'll see a lot of yachts parked out here. Right now we're going through the Montlake Cut. This is the connector between Lake Union and Lake Washington, and it goes through the heart of the University of Washington.
I love seeing this paint. Every year is so different, and these highly creative graphics are the stamp of each rowing team each year. Some say this ritual has been going on for many, many decades. As millions now know, thanks to Boys in the Boat, the movie, and the book, the University of Washington rowing team has been around for almost 125 years, with the 1936 team taking the gold in the Summer Olympics in Berlin. This is it, the original boathouse, or the shell house. It was home of the rowing teams, and it's 10,000 square feet, built out of Douglas fir, over 100 years old, home of Olympic gold medalists, and on the National Historic Register of Historic Places. A very cool piece of history right here.
Gasworks Park, a representation of how inexpensive real estate was back then versus today.
There's people watching, there's sightseeing, but then there's the boats. Every single thing that floats is out here on a sunny day. Big, small, expensive, cheap, eclectic, you name it. If it floats, it's probably out here. Of course, there's many options to rent. You can rent an electric boat, nice and quiet. You could jump on a tour boat. I've heard rumors of a hot tub boat, or just to float around. You've got all the sports gear like paddle boards and kayaks. I'm sure I have not covered the whole list.
Sleepless in Seattle. That movie is almost 30 years old at this point, I believe, and the house itself has been through a couple of owners. Right now, the current ownership, I think that they remodeled it, from what I could tell, in about 2017, 18, something like that. A lot of people call these houseboats, but they're actually, this one in particular is on logs, so it's not really movable, and that means it's not a houseboat. Go back and watch the movie. It was pretty cool. If you're as old as I do, you remember. It was a classic, and it's about 30 years old. That's it, right there. Some eclectic things out on the water here, some very interesting boats and whatnot, but that may be appropriate in a city where you've got, just up the way, you've got the Amazon Spheres.
The Amazon Spheres are less than a mile up the road, like the Space Needle, and they are amazingly cool. I have some pictures from a recent tour that I'm showing here. If you're into plants as much as I am, and not just the kind you eat, you're gonna love this place. They do tours by reservation on the first Saturday of every month.
A lot This is the Seattle Locks, and that's really the end of the line for freshwater boating. Beyond that, you've got Puget Sound, otherwise known as the Salish Sea, and you can see the boats will line up here to go through those locks both ways. There's some driftwood.
We're headed back to home base, not too far from Seattle here. This has been a really fun day and a break from my other videos, a fun break, which, gotta throw the sales pitch in here real quick. I would love it if you liked it or subscribed. And leave me a comment. Comments, questions, corrections, especially ideas for another video. So appreciated.
I did make lunch at home. Here's what we're having. Lunch on the lake, something super simple, super tasty, some clean wraps, and I made Mediterranean wraps. Let's peek inside. So I found these falafel balls. They are frozen. You can find them at Trader Joe's, different places. And then everything to do with Mediterranean, spinach, onions, cucumber, tomatoes, Kalamata olives, and then I've got quite a bit of hummus down there. I had a couple of extra little Yukon Gold potatoes, chopped them up and did some vinegar and salt, like vinegar and salt, potato chips, and then a little Dijon mustard, some red pepper. That's it. Very simple, very good. I think it's time to jump in. Okay, I'm done. Thanks for coming along. See you next time. Oh look, a plant. It's